Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
This is a show about nothing. That's all that there really is to say. No, we're not doing an episode on Seinfeld. That happened already. Maybe at some point we'll do one on Curb Your Enthusiasm, but that's down the road and I'm getting ahead of myself. We are Why Does This Exist? We are a podcast that talks about the very weirdest in pop culture, whether it's a strange movie that revolutionized pop culture as we know it, like we're about to do, a video game that for some reason has not been it has not been has not been imitated and duplicated like we just did with The Suffering, or some really cool music that sounds like it was from the 70s, but it actually is fairly new, like Blood Ceremony, like we did a few weeks ago. This week we are talking about Clerks, but if it's something weird in pop culture, you can bet your ass that we will cover it and we will talk about it and we will have a good time, and your brain is just going to rot heavily, and that's fine. Your IQ was already the same number as your age anyway. So that's the news. Here's the weather. We are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. But wait 1 minute before we talk about Clerks. I do have to say something very interesting. You can, by the way, all the links for all the things, they're going to be in the description and the other stuff. So I'm not going to waste my time. You guys you know what to do by now. You're all mostly grown adults and probably children who shouldn't be listening to this. But if you're listening on our YouTube channel, we finally hit 50 subscribers. We are at 53, but we're not going to shout out every person. We're only going to shout out number 50. This sick bastard, Ray Abrams, has taken us over the hump. We were at 40 something for the longest time. You said we couldn't do it. Somehow we did it anyway. Ray Abrams, you sick son of a bitch, you complete psychopath, you undeniable maniac, sitting at home laughing your ass off right now, saying, or quaking in your space boots, saying, "Oh God, what have I done?" You are number 50, and right now you are our number one guy. So thank you for being number 50. We really appreciate it. Let's get to 100. We will do something similar for the 100th person. That sick fuck, whoever they are. Man, woman, or child, or identifies as whatever it is that they want to identify as. I don't care. Whoever number 100 is, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for them or for us?
No, for them. For them. We're reaping the rewards and the benefits of this. I'm not sorry about us. This gives us one step closer to world domination. I feel bad for whoever 100 is going to be. And it all starts with Ray Abrams, that sick bastard. Let's talk about Clerks now.
Clerks.
Clerks.
So we actually covered a little bit of Clerks when we did our episode on View Askew Universe, which was like years ago. It was one of our first
It has been years. I think it was one of the first 5.
It was definitely in the first 10.
Yeah, let me go into the Wayback Machine and find this.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith's View Askew Universe. Uh, oh man, I don't even know.
It was just it was a long time ago. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. Oh my God, I was wrong. Episode, is it episode 14 or 15? I'm not even
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Yeah, episode 14 or 15. One of those two. Oh no, we
Oh,
did. It was a two-parter. That's right. It
right.
was a two-parter. So episodes 14 and 15. That's how huge it was. Our
Yeah.
production quality was also terrible for anybody who wants to listen to that.
Yeah.
But we have since upgraded our equipment.
Yeah.
No thanks to you, Ray Abrams.
Yeah. You're
But
an asshole.
all right, we now have 49 subscribers. Ray Ray Abrams has unsubscribed in a fit of rage.
Yeah.
All right, but yes, we covered we extensively covered Kevin Smith's View Askewniverse, which this is the first film ever of Kevin Smith's, to our knowledge. Oh no, you're
Chris,
blanking out again. You're Ray
oh,
Abrams has placed a hex on you.
yeah. Yep. That's in Ray Optum.
Uh, I don't know. Does Ray
All
Abrams
right.
work for Optum?
He
Does he
probably
work
does.
for Optimum? He probably is.
All
He's
right.
probably a hacker, and he hacked into our mainframe.
Are we
Oh wait,
back?
I think you're back.
All right, we're back. Yeah, so we didn't really go into detail on Clerks. We obviously talked about it, but I think it really deserves its own episode because of like how profound it was and how it launched Kevin Smith's career. It was really kind of like a diamond in the rough when it came out, and I honestly don't think he was able to capture that same like. And I'm not saying that Kevin's like any of the other Views Universe movies are bad necessarily, but I don't think he was able to capture the same magic that the original Clerks had.
Well,
Um,
I don't think you can
no.
when you go from a budget of $27,525
Mm-hmm.
to a multi-million-dollar budget.
Yeah.
Like, and like, even though you did get as many of the original actors as you could, um, it like it's just difficult to capture, a low budget total indie film
Yeah.
with like limited experience versus a full-fledged Hollywood production.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on Kevin Smith. I think they're still very
No,
funny,
not
Clerks 2
not
and 3.
no, yeah,
But
absolutely. Again, I'm not saying Clerks 2 is bad, but it's not the same kind of movie as Clerks 1. Clerks 1 was really like, an indie cult classic. And it's just like you said, you can't capture that when you have a big budget, Hollywood studio doing the sequels. It's just never going to be the same as that. Not saying that it's bad, it's just not going to be the same as the original. It's not going to have the same magic.
correct.
And Clerks, the original, to this day remains my favorite of the trilogy. Actually, probably of the Views universe in general, because it's such a great comedy film, and really it it kind of speaks to having worked in retail a big chunk of my life. It really speaks to people that have worked in retail on like a personal level.
Oh yeah.
It
I,
is like it really captures the to quote Elaine in Seinfeld, the excruciating minutia of day-to-day life in retail. um
yeah.
it's just it really is such a just like a diamond in the rough that and I think Kevin Smith really captured lightning in a bottle with it, and it hasn't been replicated by anybody else since then. I don't think. I think Clerks is probably like, I would say it's maybe not of all time, but probably of like the '90s, the best indie film of the '90s.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. But and I mean, there's just something so special about the energy that they captured
Yeah,
in like, yes, this is how people working in retail feel about the customers most of the time.
yeah,
like I worked in retail for quite a bit too when I was in college, and let me tell you, for anybody who works in retail, most of the customers are fucking idiots.
Yeah. Do you know how many times I've actually said this job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers?
Oh yes, when I worked in retail, that was almost like we would oftentimes quote that movie specifically
Yes.
because like so many interactions were just like just as dumb as the ones that you would see as you see in Clerks.
Yeah.
Like
I
people asking me what's the like how much something costs when they're like that they just pulled off of like the shelf that says how much everything on that shelf costs.
yeah.
Like just these oblivious people
Mhm.
who like just ask stupid questions, or people calling the store asking dumb questions about something that like we don't even sell, let alone
Yeah.
not even because it's like you just assume that the store would sell that, but like something that like would never be in a store of that. Like I worked at a music store and people were calling asking if we sold like a pipe or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like not even like I understand if it's like a stoner person, they were asking for like like a weed pipe or something so that they could like get inspiration or whatnot for their next like song or whatever. Like, yeah, I guess you would ask like I guess you would maybe call a music store and ask them if they sold pipes for like, for stuff like that for some reason. I don't know why, but they meant like a bathroom pipe and we were like, "No, but there is like a bathroom like furniture store next door. Did you like?" And they're like, we're like, "Did you mean to call them?" And they're like, "No, I'm asking you." And I'm like, "Why would you call a music store? Like, I sell guitars, man.
Yeah.
Like, why would you call me about like physical pipes? I don't know. I figured you'd sell them. Why would you think that I would sell them? Like,
Yeah.
like, like, no, a pipe to my knowledge is not an instrument. Go home, stay home, wherever you are. Just don't maybe take a nap. I don't know. Do something, but don't call me. Or I mean, but any place, or like people call, or like I worked at a pizza shop. People would call and ask for like these absurd topping combinations, and you just be like, "Are you ask like, is this a code?"
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, I could go on, and I'm sure you can too. Well, I'm sure you can too. But
Yeah.
they really capture the essence of someone working in retail and just all of like the absurd like antics that they have to go through and all the weird conversations that you have with people on a regular basis that oftentimes have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people would just come in just to talk, but other times it's just, why are you asking me this? But sometimes you do have interesting conversations with people, which
Yeah.
end up really like balancing out your day. Like sometimes you're like, "Oh man, I wasn't expecting to have this talk. I'm glad you came in." Like there are some of those, very rarely you get a customer that's awesome and you love to see them and you have a great chat about something completely out of the blue, like like Randall's Star Wars Stormtrooper Death Star contractor theory,
Yeah.
and then the contractor comes in and gives them a really cool take on it, where they're both like, "Huh, okay." So like that stuff happens too, but rarely.
Yeah.
And you definitely get the weird customers too that have their own, you know, ticks, and you're just like, "Why do they have to be doing this in my store?"
Yeah.
Like such as the milkmaid or the egg guy who was the
Yeah.
guidance counselor.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a thing. The the
Oh yeah.
the the eccentric customers, let's call them.
Oh, I thought you meant the egg people.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, I didn't work in a store that had food, so I can't speak for the egg thing. But
No, I've been a butcher and I've worked behind deli counters, but I've never seen something like that.
yeah. Uh I think also for me personal on a personal note, Clerks, having grown up and lived my entire life in suburban New Jersey, it kind of like touches like a part of that too for me. It's like it's a very New Jersey movie, uh, and it's like growing up in suburban New Jersey is definitely like a unique thing. It's like its own kind of like little thing, and has its own essence, and I think Kevin Smith, having grown up in New Jersey himself, really captures that. It's New Jersey is like the suburb state basically, because we have the city. North Jersey is right next to New York City, and then South Jersey is right next to Philly. So like New Jersey is literally like the suburban state. And we have our own cities too, but like I think we're the the better side of New Jersey is its suburbs. And
It's really funny because most people forget that there's even cities in New Jersey. Like
yeah,
everyone just kind of thinks of New Jersey as like a bunch of towns as
yeah,
opposed to as cities.
yeah, and the cities are kind of all like clustered together. Like you have like Newark and Patterson that are really close together, and all that, and Union City, and they're all like kind of in one area, Hoboken. And then like south you have like Camden and Trenton, which are fairly close together.
Try not to go to Camden on purpose, folks.
Yeah, Camden's pretty bad. But most of New Jersey is just suburban towns, and I think there's something nostalgic about watching Clerks, especially like having grown up in the '90s in New Jersey. It's like this is like so '90s New Jersey, and it like really brings back memories of childhood, like going to the video store and all that. But anyway, we'll talk about like the plot a little bit, because we really didn't go into it so much when we did the View Askew universe.
No, well, I
Um,
mean that was kind of the point. We were touching on
yeah,
everything that like it's basically Encyclopedia Kevin Smith those episodes. So
yes,
if you
yeah,
want to learn, if you want to learn just about everything about Kevin Smith, then like you could check out those. This is
yeah,
like specific to Clerks that we'd like to
yes,
try. We'd like to attempt this at least.
yeah,
Let's see how good we do.
yeah. So the movie begins with our main character Dante sleeping in a pile of clothes in his closet on a Saturday morning, and he gets a call from his boss at the Quick Stop grocery store in Leonardo, New Jersey, which I have been to.
Which is
And
also the very store that Kevin Smith was working in at the time.
yes, yes. This was actually Kevin Smith's real job, and he filmed at night when the store was closed. So
Yes.
he would work all day as a clerk at the store, shut down the store, film all night, and basically sleep like for like a half an hour before he had to go back to work.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean the guy was dedicated.
Yeah.
So our story begins.
Also had a probably cool boss who like
Oh yeah, I
understood,
think
like let him do it.
yeah, yeah. Especially this college kid who's got like no budget. Like literally, the film was shot for $27,000, which I think we talked about this a little bit during the View Askew universe like episode. But like shooting a film for $27,000 is like that's like if you were. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Let's say like $27,000 for a film budget is like if you were building a house and had a budget of like $100. It's like that like it's comparable to that. Like most films cost millions of dollars to make, and the fact that he did this for $27,000 is incredible. And I think
Yeah.
that's really, he had a cool boss that let him use the location, and
Yeah.
kind of immortalized the store. I'm sure like Quick Stop got a huge, once Clerks took off as a cult classic, Quick Stop became like a kind of like a mecca for fans of Kevin Smith.
Yeah. I mean, just for like to adjust for inflation, this movie costs what is it, $27,575?
Yeah,
So made in like 1993, adjusted for inflation, that movie would cost about just under 60 grand to make today,
yeah,
which still, a year's salary for I think like I think for like most people.
yeah, average
Like,
middle class person.
yeah. And like it's incredible
Yeah,
because like you said, movies now cost like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes. Even indie films generally cost at least $1 million to
Yeah.
make. And we've talked about other movies, that have, cost indie movies that have cost around $1 million or more to make. And for the $27,000 budget that this had, they made 4.4 million at the box office, which is an incredible return.
Yes,
you
they
know,
had for how much this movie costs, like it had no business being the hit that it was,
yeah,
but it managed to hit all of the right notes, and not necessarily because it had great actors, but because it was so relatable.
yes, yeah.
And
I
also
think that's
the
really what
art
it is.
and also the art style had a bit to do with it too, for like some of the art fancy folk, where it's like, oh my god, it's in black and white. Where like I believe that was done specifically because he was shooting at night, and
Yeah,
he could like make it seem like he could still make it seem like it was daylight out.
yeah, that and the fact that the whole plot of, well, let's get it. We're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Hmm.
So let's say, like I said, Dante, he gets a call from his boss at the Quick Stop Grocery that says, "Oh, can you come into work?" And everybody who's worked retail has gotten this call where you're laying in bed on your day off and your boss calls, "Oh, somebody called in sick. I need you to get here." And you're like, no, I don't want to come in. I'm not even supposed to be here today. The repeated line throughout the whole movie that Dante
Hmm.
says. We've all been there. So right off the bat, we were like, oh God, I feel your pain. Um, so Dante uh gets to the store and agrees to come in only if he can leave early, which the boss is like, oh yeah, sure. Gets to the store and realizes that somebody has jammed gum in the locks of the shutters. And this was a little Kevin Smith trick because he was filming at night. The whole plot of the shutters being stuck closed was so he could film inside the store at night, and nobody would look out the window and see that it's actually not daytime. So again, genius. Just the little things here that like make the movie work. You know.
Right.
Um. So So Dante, gets a big like sheet and takes shoe polish and writes, "I assure you we're open," and hangs the sheet on the shutters. And that's I've considered doing that at my store many times when people like were like it's a holiday and we're open for the holiday, but like closing early and people keep coming in. Oh, you guys are open today? It's like
They always
yes,
do. They
yeah,
always and they always come in like 10 minutes to closing.
of course,
The whole day, no one bothered to show up until like 10 minutes later,
yes.
when the whole town called everyone else and said, "Oh, did you know the store's open?"
The
And suddenly everyone happened to need to buy something that day.
The worst is the people that come in and say, "Oh, I can't believe they're making you work today." It's like, yeah, because you're here, jackass. That's why I have to be here today. like, uh, yeah. So I've considered writing a giant sheet that says, "I assure you we're open," and hanging it outside the store many a time because of people that just ask stupid questions like, "Are you guys open?" Uh, So the first thing in the morning, Dante gets accosted after he, opens up the store, puts the coffee on, does all the typical things that you have to do in a convenience store to get ready for the day. He gets accosted by a representative of the Chuli's chewing gum brand, who is trying to convince people to stop smoking cigarettes and instead should buy Chuli's chewing gum, and ends up almost starting a riot, and people start throwing cigarettes at Dante, and he gets,
Which wouldn't surprise me if this was like a strategy done by like various chewing gum sales reps
oh
back in the
yeah,
day.
absolutely. I'm sure it would be. And it's only Dante's girlfriend Veronica that sprays everyone with fire extinguisher that gets them to break up the crowd, and then finds
AKA the
out that
good
it
one.
yeah, and then finds out that, oh yeah, he is just a chewing gum representative. He has nothing to do with actually trying to get people to quit smoking. He just wants to sell more gum.
And then
So
one of the guys ends up buying cigarettes anyway.
exactly. uh so Veronica is there to try to convince Dante to quit the job and go back to school, and again, Dante is, early 20s guy, doesn't really want to. We've all been here too, basically. You're in your early 20s, you don't know what you want to do with your life. Should you go back to college, or you're in college maybe, but you don't know, you don't really feeling it. Like, we've all been here, and
Oh yeah.
it's like Dante is like perfectly like in that, like, I know exactly how he feels. Like, it's like, what the hell do I want to do with my life? I'm stuck at this shitty job, and should I go back to college, or should I go to college, or should I continue going to, it's a whole, what do you do? So
Yeah.
Veronica's trying to convince him to go back, and it's at this point that one of her ex-boyfriends comes in, and Dante finds out that she sucked his dick, and snowballed with him, which is, for those who don't know, go look it up on Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. I mean, if you're into that thing, God bless you, but not for me.
Yeah. And it's at this point that Dante finds out that Veronica has sucked 36 other dicks before him.
Yes.
And he was under the assumption that she had only slept with, like, I think 3 other guys.
Well, she
And,
did only sleep with 3 other guys.
yes, exactly.
She just blew a bunch of other guys.
Yes.
Like her logic was that, well, I didn't care when you told me that you slept with 12 girls before
Yes.
me, and and he was like, yeah, but this was before you told me that you blew 36 other guys, and she was like, yeah, but he's like, and you told me you only slept with 3, and she's like, well, I did sleep with 3. I only slept with the 3 guys that I thought that like that I thought deserved it or were special, which
Yes.
that's a fair argument, but
Yeah.
Dante's like, yeah, but you still blew 30 something people.
I just want
Like,
to point out also, for Dante being somewhat of a loser, he
that's a
gets
pretty
laid
good
a
number.
lot.
Yes.
Yeah. He's in his early 20s, and he's already got a 12 under his belt. That's pretty
That's
decent
yeah,
for
that's pretty
someone who's
damn
really,
good.
kind of not that popular, or and kind of looked down upon.
Yeah, I mean, most people usually it's like maybe 10 throughout their entire lifetimes.
Yeah.
So,
So,
that's a pretty good scorecard.
yeah, and I think that, Dante kind of like, he doesn't see the woods for the trees, kind of like, he doesn't,
Yeah.
he's very much like, and I've known people like this. I don't think I'm personally like this, but I mean, who knows, but I've known people that are like, they can't see what they've got. The fact that, first of all, like, Veronica is a very good girlfriend to him, and like, yeah, okay, she sucked 36 other dicks before him, but also she brings him lasagna at work, which, is like, what, not like just like picking up like fucking McDonald's for you, but like literally bringing a home cooked meal to you at work. Like, that's like marriage material right there. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
um
and also, who hasn't had a whole phase? Let's be honest. Who hasn't
exactly.
had a whole phase?
Yeah.
Like no one cares.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like she slept with 36 guys.
Right.
She only sucked 36 dicks.
That's the point that she's trying to make. Well, 37 including Dante's. Let's not
Yes.
forget that number. But
In a row?
yeah, that would be one thing. That would be something else completely different. If it was 37 in a row, then it's like, okay.
I
But
I want to also point out that the comedy of this movie is fucking
also,
hilarious, and the jokes are set
yes.
up so perfectly. Where she walks out, he says, "Hey, make sure you don't suck any dick on the way to the parking lot." And then the guy that's standing outside the store starts walking after her, and he's like, "Hey, you come back here."
Yeah.
Like, it's just, the jokes are just set up so perfectly, and they're
Yes.
written so well.
Yes, or like Randall's introduction, where like
Yes.
Randall is like sitting outside the video store, like, and there's another woman camped out there who's been like, yeah, I've been waiting here for like 35 minutes. And he's like, well, why didn't you just go to the other video store? And she's like, well, they don't have the one that I want. And that happens to be in the window here. So I'll wait it out. He's
Yeah.
like, I bet you're not going to get that video. And she's like, okay, well, fine. How much you want to bet? And he's like, I bet you $20 that you're not going to get this video. And he's just like, I hate how they leave you sitting out here. And she's like, I know. And like, he's winding her up so that she like talks shit about the store and the manager in front of the manager, not knowing that
Yeah.
it's him. So like, he opens the door and he lets her in. And like, she kind of has this look like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like when he's on the phone, or like he asked this woman who's clearly with her child, like, she's looking to rent a movie.
Yeah,
So
for like the kid, like a puppy pal movie or some shit like that.
yeah. Meanwhile,
He-
Randall, being a guy in his early 20s, is a deviant. He's like a sexual deviant. So he's like on the phone ordering porno movies,
yeah,
and like he's talking instead of like just asking her to like leave the room for a minute because and like warning her that like the titles are not savory for like her child or her. He just like goes ahead and like just rattles off all these like awful sounding names
yeah,
that and then like he's like, "Oh yeah, and what was that puppy movie that your kid wants?"
yeah, exactly.
Like,
He's like on the phone with the distribution warehouse ordering all this porno, and he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And
yeah,
apparently,
he's
Jeff Anderson,
he's intentionally trying to piss off all of these like every customer. Like
yes,
he wants to just have no like Randall is the guy who is trying to get fired every day, but for some reason like just doesn't.
yes. He constantly closes the video store to go hang out with Dante at the quick stop. Like it like yells at customers. Like there's the one hilarious scene where like there's this woman asking him about these movies and he's like, "Oh, I don't watch movies." He's not even paying attention. He's reading a magazine.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, well, what about this one?" And she's like, "Oh, that one sucks." He's like, "Well, that's the same movie." It's like, and then he goes into like, "Oh, I hope you're happy that, you take pleasure in like,
Yeah, he just
the
like starts
misfortunes of others."
gaslighting this woman.
Exactly. And then she like storms out and he chases after her and says, "Hey, you're not allowed to rent here anymore." Like, and again, you have Jay and Silent Bob standing outside selling drugs, and Jay just screams out, "Yeah!" Like he has no
Yeah.
idea what the conversation even is going on. He's just there to
This
like
I've
cause
watched this
trouble.
movie. I've watched this movie probably 100 times, and it wasn't until I watched it today that I noticed that for the first time.
That's yeah. He has no idea, and he just like screams out, "Yeah!" Like,
Yeah, I don't know. Like this is also one of those movies where like every time where like you watch it 100 times. Well, you're gonna watch it a bunch of times if you've
yes,
never seen it before. For like all two of you,
yeah.
I mean like only the two people who are listening, not the two people who are listening that haven't watched the
So hell, who
movie.
knows? The two people of listening may have also not watched Clerks. So
Well, you know who may not have ever watched Clerks? That sick bastard Ray Abrams.
yeah,
Oh, I think he just like screwed with your audio. Try talking. Oh my god, he did. Ray Abrams has again put a pox on you. Or the show, really.
fucking Ray Abrams instead of the Curse of Lord Petrus.
Well, this is the curse of Ray Abrams. All right, now you're back.
All right,
He he's a very he he's not a very vengeful deity, this Ray Abrams fellow.
yeah,
Maybe we'll have Ray Abrams on the show and he can, and he could like give us all of his shit.
yep.
Maybe this was a strategy by Ray Abrams, like from the first episode, and he was like, "I don't know how, but I'll be on this show, and I'm going to kill their audio."
Fucking asshole.
Yeah, geez, that is like superb levels of like villainy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Speaking of superb levels of villainy,
yes, speak.
we also find out that Dante has been talking to his ex-girlfriend Caitlin Bree, who is possibly, I would say she's the closest thing to an antagonist of this movie because she is a piece of shit, and for some
Yeah,
reason
no,
Dante is
she's
like
also known as
infatuated
the
with her.
bad one.
Yes, yes, yes.
They
This is
did.
the perfect example of like when because everybody again has probably had this friend who's an idiot and like goes after like the girl that treats him like shit and like
Oh yeah.
and spurns the girl that actually cares about him. Well,
Yep.
that's Dante because he for some reason is talking to his ex-girlfriend Caitlin who has fucking cheated on him multiple times, and also she decides not to tell him that she's
I think
engaged while they're talking.
I think 8.5 times, and then we find out later that it was
Yes.
9.5 times.
Yes. And that's one of my favorite things. The reason why the half is how they explain how it was a half is that they were at a party. They didn't know they were at a party with each other. They were both drunk. Dante went to go lay down in a room, and Caitlin came into the room to sleep with whoever was in the room, thinking it was somebody else, but it was actually Dante. And so that was the so she thought she was sleeping with somebody else and cheating on Dante, but she was actually having sex with Dante. So that's like, that's the half time that she cheated. Um, but yeah, so uh, again, Dante is like, again, talking to Caitlin behind Veronica's back, and we eventually find out that, or Dante eventually finds out that she actually is engaged, and he's all pissed off because everybody seems to know this except for him, and he's been talking to her on the phone. So and one of my favorite parts of this of Clerks in general is how like everything is kind of broken up into these little vignettes.
Yes.
There's not like a real like clear flow of scene to scene. It's like everything is like a little vignette, and yeah, there's an overarching plot that goes throughout the movie, but like it's kind of broken up into these little like you know little one-off scenes.
Right,
And
which also makes sense with like the theme of like the day in the life of a convenience store clerk or a
yes,
retail employee, because there are just like these like all of these like weird little things will happen throughout the day to you, but not like one after the other. Like like in between all of these like weird situations or normal situations, like there's just a lull where nothing happens.
yeah.
So like it's possible that in between this he was just sitting at the register waiting for something to happen, or like using the bathroom, or like cleaning up the store, or doing whatever.
Well,
Like
and it's
just
also, it's a convenience store, so it actually makes sense that like, they have a morning rush for people getting their coffee and their paper and
mhm,
shit in the morning, and then like they're dead for a while, and then they might have like a lunchtime rush, and it
right.
actually makes sense the way it's broken up that way for a convenience store.
Right. So like I mean I also like that too, because like that is just, and even if like when you're working, you would just kind of label these moments as like these odd little vignettes, like all these
Yes.
weird little incidents where you're just like, okay, well, I started my morning rush, and then the weird guy who came in at 3:30, or like, and then I don't know, um the family, and then like, meeting with manager, or like other things or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then like, the parking lot incident or something else or whatever it was. Actually, we knew a guy who like would who like would try to he would pick fights with his with some of the customers who like were like who like got like snippy with him, because and like he was like a and like the customers would like they didn't like his attitude after a while, so because he wouldn't give them discounts or something like that. So
Yeah.
like he would get into it because he kind of had a temper too after a minute, and he also and like of course, these people who would like they would get all like, they would get all like puffy and hot headed, and they would be like, "Yeah, I'll take you in the parking lot. We can settle this there. You won't give me $100 off or whatever." And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm not going to give you $100 off, but I will meet you in the parking lot
Hmm.
if you really want to. I'll meet you in the parking lot." And this guy was fairly short, so they were like, and the other people were like obviously bigger than him, and they were like, "Oh yeah, fine, I'll see you in like 5 minutes. Just give me a minute. I'll knock your block off." Not knowing this fellow, who we used to call the enforcer, was like he was a like multi-degree black belt,
Oh my gosh.
and once owned his like his own like martial arts school for like a decade.
Mm,
Like he had trained Mike Tyson's bodyguard. Like this guy was like the real deal, the enforcer.
yeah.
I hope he's doing okay. But yeah, he was just a tough son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Which also was just like kind of like the funniest thing in the world. He never got it. The fights never ended up happening, but like, but like the minute that we found that out, like we were just like, oh, we were like, wait, so he's like, trust me. I was hoping that he's like every time he's like, I was really hoping that this fight was going to happen, because I just wanted. We're like, why? He's like, I just wanted to flex. I haven't had like a. He's like, I'm in my 60s. I don't do tournaments anymore. I haven't fought a guy in like 10 years, but I know I can probably kill him and his family in like 20 minutes at best. He's like, and that's if there's a lot of rooms in the house. But anyway, just all the odd little vignettes of the day.
Yeah. Um,
But but
yeah.
yeah, like also yeah, and then of course this like connects to some very bizarre incident, and like it's probably the setup that takes the longest, I think,
Mm.
where and you it's one of those things where like they leave breadcrumbs throughout throughout the film, but you never really put it together until it's too late. And in a weird way, Caitlin almost kind of gets what's coming to her, except in a very horrible fashion. But
Yeah.
basically, she's she ends up coming all the way back from Ohio from school because there was an announcement in the paper that her mother made in the morning where like she was engaged to be married to like her boyfriend, but
An Asian
and
design major.
yes, and her and Dante had been like talking and getting friendly in like the past couple of weeks, and like Dante's kind of had like the rose-colored glasses for her, even though she was a terrible girlfriend
Yeah.
and just a bad person in general. So she decided that she was going to come all the way from Ohio to go like tell him, no, this isn't happening. Don't freak out. Where instead of just a phone call, I don't, and knowing that he has a girlfriend, so she's going to come there to like say she's leaving the guy for him and to stop her mother, basically.
Yeah.
But all she needed to do really was pick up the phone, and none of this would have happened.
Yeah.
Um, but of course she didn't. So there's a pervy old man who needs to use the bathroom, and the lights of the bathroom turn off after 5:15, and the owner of the quick stop of the quick who like I believe well I guess it's assumed that this guy is an asshole and he also owns the video store, which is
Yes.
probably the reason why Dante and Randall are like just so like more Randall than Dante, or just like they're kind of just like they don't really give a shit about what happens at the store.
Yeah.
Or like Dante, it's almost like Randall is actively like trying to put the video store out of business just to stick it to this guy.
Yeah.
Like
Well, the
Randall,
guy
I mean,
is an asshole because
he is. Well,
he has Dante come in because he can't come to work. Says that he's going to come in at some point, and then Dante finds out that he's vacationing in Vermont, so he has to stay there all day long and close the store on his day off. So the
uh,
fucking owner is an asshole.
yeah,
That's pretty much established from the start.
yeah, but like it's Randall we'll get into in a little bit because his character is interesting. It's just like the necessary agent of chaos there.
Yes.
But like so anyway, so this pervy old man wants to use the bathroom. He needs to go to the bathroom really bad. He's a little particular about the toilet paper, and also he needs something to read while he does his business, which is fine until he specifically needs porn for
Yes.
some reason. But it has to be a specific magazine the because they pick more voluptuous women to be in the magazine.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, so so Dante decides he's going to leave Veronica, the good one, for Caitlin, the bad one, out of like this stupid like thing. He's like lusting for this nostalgia in his mind, and he like for some reason he constantly thinks that there's something better on the horizon. Like we've said, not to realize that he has the right things in front of. He already has like the perfect thing already. Um, So he decides, okay, I'm gonna leave Veronica for Caitlin for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
And Caitlin like has to use the bathroom. The
Well,
lights are
that's
off in the
we're
bathroom.
getting a little ahead of
Well,
ourselves now.
we are getting ahead of
Yeah, so
ourselves,
let's
but
just say
it's
that
not
so
good.
we know the old man goes into the bathroom with the porn magazine, and that let's just leave it at that for now. At the
Yes.
same time, Dante decides because he was supposed to have a hockey game and he finds out that the boss isn't coming back, he decides to close the store and play hockey on the roof. So they do that. They get all their guys to come down. Of course, they raid the fridge for fucking Gatorades and like just throw it all on Dante's tab because who gives a shit. And they have a game of hockey on the roof, and it's going pretty good until one of them hits a ball. Actually, people
No, a
start lining
customer
up
comes
outside.
in.
Well, yeah, so the people are lining up outside. The customers are like, "Hey, you got to open the store. I want to get something." And they're like, well, we're in the middle of the game. Why don't you come back?" And he's like, "Oh, fine. Let me play." And he comes up and he like literally knocks the ball like a mile away and down into a sewer. So basically, like ends the game instantaneously, and they have to reopen the store.
Yeah.
Um.
All because he
So
wants cigarettes. Cigarettes being like another
yes,
recurring theme of this movie.
yeah. Randall inadvertently also sells cigarettes at some point to a child, a little girl that comes in. And this ends up biting Dante in the ass later because so two of his former classmates come in and they're talking about, everybody uh everybody knew that Caitlin cheated on Dante repeatedly in high school. And
One
even
of
Rick, the one guy, says that he
yes,
even slept with her.
yeah,
So apparently she was like the school bicycle because everybody had a ride.
yes.
Um
It's funny. I was watching this with the missus, and like, as soon as that scene was over, she was just like, I would hate to live in a small town.
yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
Word definitely spreads fast.
yes,
Um, so yeah, so while they're discussing this, a representative from the Department of Health comes in and finds Dante for selling cigarettes to a minor, even though he wasn't the one, which further tarnishes Dante's image in his former classmates who are like, "Wow, you're a fucking scumbag. You sold cigarettes to a 4 year
yeah.
old. That's terrible."
Which who cares?
Oh,
But
and
Dante
meanwhile, this is all
does.
Randall, the agent of
Yes,
chaos, that did this.
yes,
Randall pops up repeatedly and really like kind of like gives Dante his karma for being kind of an asshole, because Dante is kind of an asshole to Veronica
he is.
specifically,
He
and
is.
he kind of deserves what he gets because yeah, like he's like kind of a loser, and yeah, you feel bad for him on the one hand, but on the other hand, everything that's happening to him that he complains about is because of his own like like not his own unwillingness to change his situation, basically.
Yes, he does everything to himself, and he
Yeah.
always thinks that the grass is greener on the other side, when in fact the grass is always greener where you water it.
He's very much like the George Costanza of the film. Like
Yeah,
he he is kind of a loser and he fails at everything and then blames the universe for it instead of his own idiocy.
well, it's not even that he fails at everything; he just doesn't try.
That's true. He doesn't try.
And this is a theme in the other Clerks movies too, where he's just like
Yes.
he kind of just does it. I mean,
He's
we
the
well,
he's the
well,
ultimate underachiever.
yes,
Um so yeah, so this happens. Meanwhile, around this time, Caitlin shows up at the store and basically tells Dante that, oh, the whole thing, I'm not actually going to marry this dude. I came here for you. And, basically tells him that, like, oh, I'm going to tell my mother that I'm breaking off the engagement. And, like, her mother kicks her out of the house until she graduates, basically. So, she's like, well, I just got kicked out of my house for you. So you better, like, go out with me basically again. And
yeah.
of
She
course
puts him into
Dante,
this terrible situation.
well, and also Dante the Poonhound doesn't fucking like say, "Oh, this is a bad idea. Let me get back with my ex who repeatedly cheated on me." No, he's just like,
Yeah,
"Okay."
yeah, like an idiot.
Yeah.
So he goes home to change while Randall is manning the store,
Yes.
and she like, and well, Caitlin goes in the bathroom,
Yes. So then we
and
have the setup
then we
of
have the payoff for
yes.
this for this joke.
She goes and into the bathroom, which is pitch black because the lights are off, and comes out like all like, weak in the knees and like, acting very weird. And Dante's like, had just arrived at this point, Meanwhile, Randall is watching hardcore pornography on the store television that he
Yes,
rented.
that he rented from the competing video store.
Yeah, across town. Well, we also forgot to mention that before this all happened, they also closed the store to go to a funeral of one of Dante's other ex-girlfriends, Julie
Yes,
Dwyer.
yes.
And
Which
it's
I
not
think in the beginning of Mallrats, she's the one she's
yes.
swimming and dies. So I think
Yes.
Mallrats takes place on the same ish day
Yes, it's
or
like the
on
day
the same
before.
weekend.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
okay.
And actually, that is so. Originally, Kevin Smith wanted to film the scene in the funeral parlor.
Hmm.
However, they didn't have the budget to rent the funeral parlor out or hire mourners, extras to be mourners, so they couldn't do it.
Yes.
Later on, after the success of the Clerks and the series and Clerks 2 and whatever, they decided to add the scene of the funeral, except they animated it like the Clerks animated series. And it's actually explained, and um Joey Lauren Adams actually reprises a role as Alicia Jones in in the deleted scene, and explains that, oh yeah, like she was at this like contest at the mall the previous day or something like that. And yeah, it basically, the whole thing is it's all linked to Mallrats.
Yeah.
And but while we're at this funeral, and it's fucking hilarious what actually happens. Dante like drops his keys in the casket, and for some reason they have Julie dressed very scantily in the like she's wearing like a crop top and like a mini skirt
Huh.
in the casket, and Dante drops his keys in her vagina
Oh
somehow.
God.
Yeah,
Somehow they make their way there, of all places.
yes, so he has to try to reach in and get the keys. Meanwhile, Randall's trying to like distract and block the mourners from seeing what's going on. And Randall inadvertently knocks over the casket and her body rolls out.
Do they
And
get the keys?
yes, they get the keys, obviously, because they escape. So this is where we pick up in the movie now, where they're driving away from the funeral, and and Dante is like admonishing Randall for knocking the casket over. Meanwhile, Randall hates like people, but he loves gatherings. That's why he went to the funeral.
Oh, of course.
Because he calls it the social event of the year, because all of their old classmates are going to be there, basically mourning. So, yeah. So he knocks the casket off, and the body falls out, and Randall or Dante yells at Randall for this, and it's like, her fucking body fell out, like. uh So they get back to
If
the
you have
store.
ever been part of a funeral that has ended in a very awkward fashion, please let us know in the comments, or just give us money on our Patreon and tell us in the Discord server. We'd love to bring you on the show, and we can, if enough people give us money, we could just have a whole episode of just awkward funerals. That would,
Yes,
how great would that be?
that would be an interesting one.
Maybe Ray Abrams has been to a few. Maybe he's been the cause of many of these instances.
That's true.
Don't know.
Maybe Ray it is a repeat funeral offender.
Maybe Ray Abrams is a necromancer. That would explain him
Maybe
messing
Ray
with our
Abrams is a
technology.
necrophiliac.
Let's not go there. We want to keep him as a subscriber now.
That's true.
Ray Abrams is not a necrophiliac.
But who is a necrophiliac? Caitlin Bree.
Yes!
Because, as we said before, she inadvertently goes into the back and has sex with the old man who has died while masturbating on the toilet. So, because he died while masturbating, a certain part is very stiff.
There was a previous setup for this that I just realized now. He mentions his hemorrhoids earlier, and knowing now that he likes to like jack it while he's on the bowl, that's the cause of his hemorrhoids.
Of course. Yeah.
Anyway.
So this guy's dead. She goes back and fucks him, and comes out like weak in the knees and thinks it's Dante that's back there. Meanwhile, Dante has just come back from his house where he's getting changed for their date. And, she's like sauntering up to him and being like, oh man, like, it was never like that. It was better than ever. Blah, blah, blah. And Dante's like, what? And she's like, oh, are you always this like aloof after you like violate a woman? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? and we find out that it wasn't Dante that was in the bathroom, and
Well,
his first concern is like, he's like, who the hell's in the bathroom? Somebody just raped Caitlyn in the bathroom, and it's like, and Randall makes a good point. She said she did all the work, which is
yeah,
true.
yes.
So yeah, so they find out it was the guy. He died, and Caitlyn had sex with a corpse
With quite a smile on his face as they're
Yes.
putting him on the gurney.
Yeah.
Still stiff as a board, by the way.
Yeah.
In the crotchal region, and well, you know, she's traumatized. She'll need years of therapy. All you needed to do was just get on the phone once again, and all of this could have been avoided.
Yep.
But no, I do that. So
Well, yeah.
then in like a moment of clarity, Dante realizes that he does love Veronica, and that he should stay with her and just take her advice and see
Well,
how things turn out.
partly thanks to Silent Bob, who has
Yes.
his one line of the movie, which is usually some profound thing, and that's actually kind of parodying in Clerks too, because he's got nothing to say. But in this one, he actually does say, he says specifically, like, he's like, what's the actual line? I gotta look this up because I'm gonna butcher it. 1 second. Because it's a pretty profound line, and it works like so good. Dead air.
For
He says,
those
"Oh, I
look
got it. I got
okay.
it. Okay." Silent Bob comes in. He says, there's a million fine looking women in the world, dude, but they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you.
Yep.
So, and that's kind of like the profound thing that like causes Dante to be like, yeah, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I should go back with Veronica. Meanwhile, however, our friend Randall, the agent of chaos, has already told Veronica everything, and that Dante wants to get back with Caitlyn, and he's going to break up with her, and so Veronica storms in and breaks up with Dante, and yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Again, he gets hit with his own karma, but
Yep.
Randall.
Yep.
So Dante attacks Randall, and like they trash the whole store. And as they're kind of laying there after the fight, Dante is like, again, repeats that he's not even supposed to be there today, and it says all this shit like everything is, and Randall rightly blows up on Dante and says like, first of all, you closed the store to play hockey on the roof and to go to the funeral and do all this other shit, and you want to like pretend that you're like doing something profound by being a clerk at the store, but it's just a shitty job. And he's like, we're both just here working a shitty job. That's like, who cares? Like, it's not like what we're gonna do for the rest of our lives, basically. But ironically, it is. But
Yeah.
we'll get to
We end
that
up
in later episode.
yes.
So yeah, like, so they end up, reconciling, and Randall helps Dante clean up the store, and they close it up, and that's Dante plans to visit Caitlyn in the hospital the next day, take off from work, and then try to reconcile with Veronica, and it ends there. Now there was a secret ending, and I think we discussed this on the Venus Universe episode, but
I think so, which this would have effectively destroyed Clerks 2 or Clerks 3 or anything
yes,
involving Dante at
yeah,
all. That would have been
yeah,
it for is it Brian O'Halloran who plays him?
yes,
Yes, that would have been it for him.
yeah. So basically what happens is after Randall leaves, Dante is about to, he's closing up, counting the register out, and somebody else comes in the store, and Dante tells the person that they're no longer open, and then the man pulls a gun and shoots Dante and robs the store, basically. And that was going to be the end. That was like, after that shitty day, everything that went bad, it really like, and they kind of like, they kind of allude to this earlier in the movie, where they're talking about what their favorite Star Wars is, And Randall says Return of the Jedi, and Dante says Empire Strikes Back because
this is probably the best like dialogue in the whole movie. This conversation.
yeah, exactly. And Dante specifically says Empire Strikes Back because it, of the ending, how, Luke finds out that Vader's his father, gets his hand cut off, Han gets frozen in carbonite, and it's like it's such a down ending, and it's like that's what life is. It's a series of down endings, basically. And
yeah.
And so that was like going to tie into this being the ending of Dante getting shot, basically, because it was going to be literally, a down ending in real life. But they decided to not include that as the ending, which again is good because they wouldn't have been able to have a sequel.
Yeah, well, 2 sequels, let alone 1.
Yeah.
But it's I believe you can find it on the special edition of the Clerks X 10th anniversary disc.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they kept it, they're probably. But like Kevin Smith has also said in audio commentary that like if he kept that ending, there probably would have been any other View Askew universe movies. Which I guess he still could have made Mallrats, since it would have taken place the day before. But like, what do you do after that? Like, technically,
Brian O'Halloran has also played other roles because he's played like Dante's cousin also.
So there still could have been other movies made. Like Dogma still could have, like most of them still could have happened realistically. But I don't know. Do you think if there was this ending that it would have like Clerks would have had the impact that it did and made all the money that it did? And like, would Kevin Smith would he have just made one movie that like maybe you and I would know about because we're in the tri-state area, but maybe he would just be more of like a local legend, hometown hero guy, as opposed to being like Kevin Smith that we know today.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean,
it's
who
hard
knows?
to say. It's very hard to say.
I'm glad that they changed the ending, and I think it was the right thing to do because
I think so too. We're like you just go home and you have a normal day. We're like this whole thing. We're like versus like just the bleakness of this is the last day of this guy's life. Like this, like really like nothing good happens to him throughout the day.
That would be like new Hollywood. Like that's something that would come out now. Like back in those days, it wasn't like things weren't as like bleak. I don't think it's like they are today.
Yeah, and also I'm sure if it was made today, they would have thrown in some kind of like a bunch of political jokes and like other things that like immediately date it to this. Where
that would be like
the only thing that dates Clerks to the 90s is really just it's really just like
a video store.
A video store.
Yeah.
It's really just the video store and maybe the prices of cigarettes.
The prices of cigarettes. I mean, there's a couple of things. It's not like
a few things here and there, but like it's not like it would not date it in like it's not dated from the dialogue outside of the video store stuff.
Yeah. I think if like George R.R. Martin had directed Clerks, that would have been the end.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't have been any dragons. They would have talked about dragons the whole movie, but you never would have saw one.
Yeah.
Which is upsetting.
But yeah, so it's a good thing that I like the way it ended, and again set us up for Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, which I still haven't seen yet. I have to watch. I know the basic plot, and actually, interesting enough, I think we spoke about this because when we did the View Askew Universe episode, Clerks 3 hadn't been released yet, and they were still talking about it, and it was still kind of up in the air whether it was going to go through or not. And
right, and they were inching towards Mallrats 2. I think at the time there was more news on Mallrats 2 than Clerks 3.
Yeah, and so eventually they did actually, Kevin Smith did Clerks 3, and my actual original, like when I said like, oh, what would I have liked to see in Clerks 3? I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, but my original like idea for Clerks 3 before it was released, what they wanted to do was to have basically the story of Clerks 1, like the behind the scenes of like somebody in the store making a movie about, working in this, basically like a movie within a movie for Clerks
like
3.
Something very meta.
Yeah, and that's exactly what basically Kevin Smith did for it.
Yeah, which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah. So, again, I haven't watched it yet. I've heard mixed things about it. I heard it's not as good as the others, obviously, but it's not bad.
It was okay, but it like there's like certain things that like immediately like date it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Like there's NFTs and things like that.
yeah. Well, and Jay and Silent Bob now own a weed shop inside the RST video, and
Yeah,
they which is
which is
pretty
pretty
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh they stood outside the place fucking selling drugs their whole life, and now they actually could legally sell drugs in the
yeah,
actual place.
yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
it was okay. I
Yeah.
think it was like an all right way to like end it,
Yeah.
but I don't think that it was really, I don't think like it was okay, it was fine, but it wasn't necessary to make.
Yeah.
I think it was just like a nice it was like if you wanted to just like bookend this or at least start like telling everyone that you're winding down your film career, this was like the first step in doing so
Yeah.
without saying anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read the plot, so I know, what happens and stuff. And
Yeah, and I mean, in like similar fashion, Clerks 3 had like a small budget too.
yeah.
It actually didn't make the budget back,
Well,
sadly, because
he did it on his own, basically, right? He didn't like have the support of, because wasn't that one of the issues why it was caught up in like production hell for a while, is because no one wanted to option the movie, basically.
yeah,
And
so he ended up just kind of doing it on his own.
yeah,
Clerks 2, on the other hand, I think like did like fairly well, or at least a lot better, but like none of them, I don't think if you want to like do like a multiple,
yes, it did.
right? Then
Budget
like
of 5
nothing
million
was
and box office 26.9, so it did quite well. Not as
yeah,
Clerks 1, obviously, like based on like box office, like the ratio of budget to what it made is like it's never going to be replicated, that because
no,
it was
not at
just,
all.
again, Kevin Smith captured lightning in a bottle with Clerks 1.
Yes.
And
But still, not too bad. I mean, Clerks 3 was a little bit shy, but like also like it was released, I think it was released during the was it like it was released during the pandemic, I
well,
believe,
I
or at
mean,
least like towards the tail end, no, 2022. So like
2022, yeah.
sort of around like well, I don't really know. Like when do we officially say that the pandemic ended, right? Because like
Yeah.
I guess 2022, like early
2022,
like
2023, I don't know.
yeah,
It's
I
kind
don't
of like up
know.
in the air because it's still going.
Yeah,
People are still getting COVID, but I don't
yeah.
know.
I mean, we're in like the endemic stage of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's hard to say, but
yeah, I
uh
mean, this was kind of like I guess the beginning of the end.
yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. It was a weird it was a weird time. So like there still weren't really a lot of people going to the movies or like buying things. And I think like if you were gonna watch this, you kind of had to like buy it on Amazon for like a little while or something.
Yeah.
So like, it had limited options. I think it was in theaters, but like smaller theaters or really
Yeah.
wherever it would take it. But it was just like a weird area. It was a weird point in time where like people just were not going to go to the movies like for the most part, which trend has still kind of continued now. Like I mean, there's a few reasons for that, but like, one of them is obviously inflation. Like I need groceries. I don't need to go to the movies.
Yeah.
So, there is that. Also, just the price of movie tickets are just too damn expensive. If I'm going to watch something, it's going to be because I am legitimately interested in the movie. I'm not going to take a chance on something.
Mhm.
Like whereas, in the 90s, early 2000s when like movie tickets were like somewhat affordable, where like we complained about the price of a movie being $15, versus now where it's double that.
Yeah.
Um like if something looked halfway decent, you would probably still go if you had nothing better to do that day and like just, take a chance and see if the movie was any good. and usually you were like, all right, it was at least worth $15.
Mm-hmm.
Where like now you're like, I'm not paying $30 for this, or I'll wait 6 weeks, and then it's just going to be on some streaming service, and I won't really have to pay anything.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a few reasons for why the movie production industry is not recovered at all. Also, like streaming services make too much of their own content, where like most of it is bad. So like they're not profitable. So now they're starting to cut back on the jobs that they have, and they're outsourcing a lot of the work to like Canada and stuff where it's a lot cheaper to film and produce and all that other stuff. Um, and the industry in general just hasn't recovered from like
Yeah.
everything that's gone on from pandemic and all of and like the strikes from last year and everything. So it's in bad shape, the movie business right now,
Yeah.
which I think will usher in a like like a new golden age at some like soon, because there's going to
Hopefully.
be, because well I think so, because there there's less projects being made, so now only certain things are going to get greenlit, where even like and like nothing is performing as well as it could or should, and a lot of it is like based off of existing IP. So like they can't so like Hollywood can't even rely on like sequels or prequels anymore, or anything like from something that already exists, which is why like Barbie and Oppenheimer were like anomalies last year, because like Barbie was something new that ended up being a really decent movie, like a really good movie. Um, and Oppenheimer just checked all the boxes of
Hmm.
just what a summer blockbuster should be, and people were interested, and to the point where they were like, "Wow, there's two that we want to watch, and they're coming out at the same time. Let's make this some like weird cult event," which I guess we could talk about at some point in the future on another episode of the whole Barbenheimer thing. Um, I didn't do that, but I know a few people who did, and they had a great time.
Yeah.
Um, but well, I mean, maybe we could get Phil on that episode. We haven't seen him in a long time on this show,
Yeah.
because he was part of that experience.
Yeah.
Um, but that's where like hopefully it will be like an indicator of like, if you're gonna make something, it better be good.
Yeah.
So there might be more risks taken and a lot of like better movies made.
I
So
think.
I think it has the potential to usher in a new golden era. Will it? I don't know. We'll have
Well,
to
you know,
see.
a huge problem with Hollywood is that over the last couple of years, especially, it, it's been very nepotism driven, and people have been
Yes.
getting positions of power not based on how good they were, but who they knew. Like, I think a perfect example is Star Wars is the Acolyte series, which is not in the eyes of critics. Like the fact that Disney keeps trying to pay people off to give them good reviews.
Sorry, could you go back a couple of minutes? You started to like get out. Like Ray
Oh,
Abrams is just, you touched a nerve
oh
with Ray
God,
Abrams there.
yeah. Hold on. Well,
No, now you're not. Now you're fine.
okay. I was gonna. So the acolyte is not doing well, and despite Pete Disney trying to say that oh, it's just bigots online, that it's like, no, it's just not a good show.
I mean, there was like an interesting snafu with like the Acolyte reviews, where like they were getting review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes, but also there's another movie called The Acolyte that came out around the same time that it released, so people were inadvertently review bombing the wrong thing.
Well, and
But
also,
like not every review, but like if you dig through some of the early ones, then it'll be talking about like things that happened in the movie and has nothing to do with Star Wars, where you're like,
yeah.
oh, well, they're not even trolling. They just bombed the wrong thing.
Well, that's and like talking about like the review. In general, I'm talking about there's legitimate criticism of the acolyte. Now Disney is to just lump every criticism in as like just online.
Yeah, you can't do that.
No.
That's not there's like valid ones in there, I'm sure.
Yes. No. And
I mean, and also if you call every review a bigoted review, then none of them are bigoted.
well, exactly. And the problem is, and again, the whole thing is the showrunner of the Acolyte, it's 100% a nepotism like thing, because she was fucking Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant.
Oh,
Like, yeah. So, like, this woman has like a position of power in Hollywood where you goddamn well know she was setting up other women in Hollywood to get fucking raped. And I don't care what anybody
Jesus.
says. You can't fucking play like the Babe in the Woods routine forever, you know? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know what was happening. Yeah, no. Everybody in fucking Hollywood knew. You were his personal assistant. So don't give me that shit, you know? So yeah, that's just again, that's just Hollywood. I think Hollywood is like it's kind of like a giant pile of shit right now, and I'm really glad that it's like hemorrhaging money, and like
Yeah.
people are like
Well,
I mean, I
also
feel bad for the
mean,
legitimately bad for the people that are just trying to make a living, like the
yes.
not like the big people that are making millions, like the people that are fucking cameramen and all that shit that are getting the shaft right now.
Yeah,
But you know what? Fuck
I do
Hollywood.
feel bad for them. Our hearts go out to those folks. But
Yeah.
the other thing that's happened over the past like couple of years is like, not even just like people putting their kids in or whatever that like are not talented. Um, but also the studio executives who have never made a movie in their life,
Yes.
have never taken a film class, are like trying to get more involved in things,
Yeah.
and they have no idea they have no idea what this thing is even about, but they just know it makes money, so they want to get involved, and they're like destroying these properties because they don't have a clue of what's going on. And of course, there's too many protections in place for people at the top, to like keep their jobs no matter how bad they are at them. And
Yes.
like everything else suffers, where like the best plan of action is to just cut the head off at the source and and then just like put a tourniquet around it, stop the bleeding, and then just hope that it doesn't have gangrene and spread to the rest of the body.
Mm,
But it's like at this point, you know I mean, we could get into a whole separate tangent about like worker protections and just like how corrupt everything is
yeah.
with that stuff, but we try to avoid like political related discussions on this show. So
Yeah.
we'll spare you folks the details.
Yeah. But any last words on Clerks? I mean,
I mean,
we've covered the whole Unis universe pretty extensively in our previous episode, so this is really just meant to be about the show, to the movie Clerks. And we could do an episode on the show, I think, eventually too, because the show was great.
yeah,
Also,
the animated series was a lot of fun. I'm
yeah,
surprised that it was on ABC.
yeah,
Like,
that
of all places, it should not have been on TV on like what on the weekends where like kids were watching, because that
yeah,
show was not for kids. But
no,
this was also the 90s where most cartoons were not for kids, should not
well,
have been for
yeah.
kids.
And I'm honestly surprised it didn't end up getting picked up by like Adult Swim or something, because it would have been perfect for Adult
I
Swim.
mean, they did show reruns on
Yeah, they
Adult
showed the
Swim for a
reruns, but
brief period of time. I
yeah,
wonder
but
if there was like negotiations and it just didn't happen.
it's possible. I'm
I
sure
mean, we'll have
because like
to.
the syndication of Family Guy is kind of what, like, on Adult Swim specifically, is kind of what saved Family Guy and actually brought it
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
So, um,
I mean, we'll have to see if we end up doing that episodes.
yeah,
But I I mean, there's really not much else I have to say. But Clerks, clearly the one of the most successful indie movies of all time.
yep,
Most likely the most successful indie film of the 90s.
yeah,
Where like especially if you just calculate like the ROI on this movie,
yeah.
of just like how ridiculous it was and how like it turned Kevin Smith into like a legend overnight, basically.
Yeah.
And like,
It made the Viewers universe possible.
yes,
If
it
if
did
this
make the
movie
views as possible.
if this movie fell into obscurity and just became like an obscure cult indie film, it wouldn't have, like, Kevin Smith would not have had the career that he had at all.
No, he may have still been able to make some of the other View Askew universe movies, but they would not have like they would have been very different films.
Yeah.
But I do like I do appreciate that Kevin Smith is still always stuck to his guns and has
Yeah.
tried to like keep the Clerks movies. I don't know about the budgets of the other Viewers Universe movies that he's made, but he's tried to keep them to relatively low budgets.
Yeah.
So I think it is really cool. And just on top of that, like, it still holds up to this day, regardless of like
Yeah.
what regardless of like sure some jokes are dated, but you know what you're
It's
getting with
pretty
this movie, and it's
yeah,
still pretty damn good.
it's
It's
pretty
still like
timeless.
yes. And that's really all that you can hope for. It was the talk of the Cannes Film Festival of the year, and gave Kevin
Yeah.
Smith a life that he probably never imagined in his wildest dreams
Yeah.
that he was able to have.
Yeah.
And you know, overall, he's still like a wonderful human being too. Like he never forgot where he came from. We've talked
Yeah.
about that before in the in the Viewers Universe episodes,
Yes.
but it's just you don't really see people like that where like
No.
they make this like they make this movie, this tiny movie, it blows up, it becomes a huge thing, and their life changes completely. Um, and a lot of people they'll after that happens they'll just become assholes. They'll move to
Yeah.
LA and they'll become assholes, and then like everyone will be like nobody will like them
Yeah.
after a while, and they'll just get this bad reputation where like Kevin Smith remembered who he was, he stayed true to who he was, and he's still like a genuine kind person. He's still the same guy who made Clerks in 1993,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing that you could take away from this is like, yeah, money can change people, but not everyone. So that can
Yeah.
give you a lot of hope. Or like it can sometimes change people for the better. And like I think the important thing to take from this is just Kevin Smith is the same guy, and
Yep.
he's still making fun movies to this day. And he's
Mhm.
doing and he's always still doing things his way. So he never lost that mentality, and I think it's
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. He is one of, one of New Jersey's, greatest, they if they're gonna freaking name a freaking rest stop after somebody, Kevin Smith is one that deserves it. Not fucking Bon Jovi or
Yeah,
freaking
I
Bruce Springsteen. Like, where's the Kevin Smith rest stop?
Yeah, I remember the first time that I saw that when they were building it, and it was just like, "Oh, the Bon Jovi, like,
Yeah,
gas station." I was like,
yeah,
"Why the fuck is there a gas station named after Bon Jovi? Does he know this?"
yeah. He does, I'm sure.
Like,
'Cause
yeah,
fucking douche.
I'm sure they had to pay I'm sure they had to pay him to, like, put his name on the thing.
Yeah,
I was like, "Did he even cut the ribbon? Like, what? Why this? Why
yeah,
could, I mean, I would have been like a little bit more there's a bunch of like New Jersey gas station rest stops that like have someone's name. And it
yeah.
was
No,
like
all
some
the rest stops are named after famous people from New Jersey. So you
yeah,
have like the John Bon Jovi rest stop. There's
yep.
the Bruce Springsteen rest stop. Like, that's, but it's like they picked like the most obvious, like, fucking people, like the most annoying, like, cliched people, like John Bon Jovi and Springsteen. It's like,
I'm surprised there isn't a Paulie D one. Thank God
yeah,
for that. Thank God for that. But
yeah,
like I don't know, it was some stupid project. But yeah, they should have given a Kevin Smith one and put it on the outskirts of Leonardo, New Jersey.
yeah, or Red Bank.
Yeah, or Red Bank. But yep, if you're in the neighborhood, and you're in of Red Bank, and you are well, if you're in Leonardo, you should probably go visit the Quick Stop. And if
Yes,
you are in, if you're around that area too, I think it's the
it
place
still
next
exists to
door or
this day.
something. Yeah, isn't it the Smod Castle now? Like Kevin Smith owns the building or something like that.
I think he,
It's like a
yes,
podcast emporium of some sort.
yeah. I don't know if it's like open to the public, but I believe that is
No,
what it is.
you can rent out the space and do like podcast events or like
Okay,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You can rent it out for stuff. If it's if it's still a place, I hope it is. I
yeah.
haven't been there. Um,
The quick stop is
and
still open as
the
far as
quick
I know.
stop is yes, the
Yeah.
quick stop is, and also if you're in Red Bank, then pop over to Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. It's a really great comic shop. No, they did
Yes.
not pay us to say this. We've been there, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
it is really
Kevin
cool.
Smith he's like hand signs a bunch of things that
Yeah.
like they sell in the store, like his book Tough Shit, and for a while they were Jay and Silent Bob Funko Pops that were signed by him that you could buy in the store. I
Yeah.
don't have those, but they would have been good trinkets to have.
And they are
Um,
it is really just a really good comic book store. They have a lot of, like, cool comics there,
it
so
is, and the people from Comic Book Men are like running the shop, and they're like
yes.
also some of they've all made appearances in all in like Kevin Smith's early films, and
Yes.
probably some of the more recent ones too. But like
Yeah.
Walt Flanagan is in he plays a few roles in Clerks.
Yeah.
But it's really cool.
Yep.
Just you should go to those places. They're fun.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all that I have to say. I want to give. I know we've ragged on him throughout the episode, but like I hope that he's a good sport about it, and I hope that he loves this. If we've bothered or upset you, Ray Abrams, I'm really sorry. That was not the intention. But
Make sure you
um,
like, comment, and subscribe about how we've
yeah,
traumatized you.
yes, Ray, if you'd like to if you kindly would like to do that, just feel free to like talk about like how we're awful people and like we should be, how we should how I don't know, think of some passive aggressive thing that should happen to us that's really not that bad. Like I don't know, like we put on our brand new shoes for the first time and that day we just happened to like poke holes in them and we
Yeah.
can't wear them anymore. I don't know, something like that, like $100 down the drain, or we buy a box of cards and it's like and we get $2 of value, but the box was $200.
Yeah.
Something passive aggressive like that. We
Or
hope.
invest $200 into a company that ends up being a Ponzi scheme, and we go down at a Ponzi scheme.
No, 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 not that. Anything but that. Don't give Ray Abrams, who has put a pox on us throughout the show, any ideas to do something like that.
Yeah.
I'll take something very passive aggressive. Thank you very much.
All right.
Like I go to the store and I wait in line for a very long time. They don't have anything that they don't have what I'm looking for. So I go to 3 different stores that day. I get home, I install it, and it doesn't work. And I can't go back to the store because they're closed by now. And it also the store that I got it from was 3 hours away. So something like that, or something that happens and I wasn't supposed to be there today. But I don't know. But we really do appreciate you, number 50, the current number and our current number one guy, Ray Abrams. Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
thank you.
whoever it is that wants to be number 100, just start subscribing, and we'll get to you eventually. But we'd love to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being so cool, Ray. And
Yes.
tell your family and friends, and do something with your day. All
Yes.
right, everybody, have a wonderful day. This has been Why Does This Exist? I have been Chris,
And I've been Rob.
and remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.